Jesus, who lives in our neighborhoods today. As we interact with our communities, may we reach to our foundation to be the non-anxious spirit the world and our church so desperately needs. My grandmother was a great influence in my spiritual life, and I learned these words from a very young age. It is the mantra for my life. Lord, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Will you pray with me, please? Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks for this day and for all of the opportunities you lay in front of us. We struggle, oh God, with the circumstances that surround us, who lives in our neighborhoods, so many today, being ill, and our inability to reach out. As we interact with our communities, someone, may we reach to our foundation. Help us, oh God, to be the non-anxious to spread spirit, our faith and the world and our church so desperately in new ways. As we chat, my grandmother was a great influence in my spiritual life. Email, as we write, and I learned these words from a very young age. Be with all those, God, the mantra who are on this call today, who work so hard to Lord, grant us the serenity ways to accept the things may we stay connected. Change. May we realize the courage that we have an important place in your world, and the wisdom. And may we have the resolve to know to continue our work as best we can. Will you pray with me, please? Amen. Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks to have such a dedicated and talented and for all of the opportunities you lay in front of us throughout our region. We struggle, oh God, seek to provide the most up-to-date information possible. And it is minute by minute, and our inability to reach out. We are able to hear today from Diane Blanchard, the Minister of Pastoral Relations. Help us, oh God, and Lynn Allen, the Minister for Congregational Support and the Spirit of our faith. Lynn will also be providing information today, re-stewardship on behalf of Dave Jagger, as we send an email, and as we write a letter. Our executive minister. Be with all those, God. I would ask that you remember Kevin Steeper, who works so hard to connect your church, is available to all ministry personnel. May we stay not connected, only during this period of time that's so difficult, that we have an important place in your world. And may we have the resolve. I would call on Diane if she's available as best we can to bring us our first update. Amen. We are so blessed to have such a dedicated and talented staff.
Hello, everyone.
To support us all throughout our region.
See you on this on the screen and to know that you are gathered here. Thank you for doing that.
And it is minute
and thank
by
you
minute,
for all the leadership that you are able to hear providing for your congregations and your communities of faith in this
and Lynn Allen,
unusual
the Minister
time.
For Congregational Support and Mission.
Yesterday, I came off
Lynn
a call with other people in the General Council staff, and I had some updates about
and
an emergency leave and being able to maintain benefits during that leave.
You remember Kevin Steeper,
today in his 11 o'clock address to the nation, Reverend
not only during this period of
Prime
time
Minister
so difficult, but
Trudeau announced that instead of a 10% wage subsidy for small businesses and medium-sized businesses, they were going to change that to a 75%. Hello, everyone. Wage subsidy. Good to see you on the screen, and to know that you are available here until Thank you for doing that. And thank you for all the leadership that you apply to providing for your nonprofit organizations and communities of faith in this I am really hoping and praying that yesterday I came off a call with other people in the General Council staff, and I had some updates about we just have to wait and see an emergency leave and being able to maintain benefits during that leave. Really grateful today to the government in his 11 o'clock address trying to stay on top of Reverend the pressures that are being faced by organizations, including churches. Trudeau announced that instead of 10% wage subsidy for small businesses and medium-sized businesses. We'll see what happens. They were going to change that today. This morning, I spent the morning trying to write a letter for M&P committees and communities of faith, and now I am not sure how much details will be available until next week. on Monday. The 10% subsidy did apply to the nonprofit organizations, including Canada.ca. So I am really hoping and praying that on the economic 75% effects, impact of COVID-19, because that's where churches. More details are being provided for people, how that will turn out for them to. But I'm really grateful access to the government for funds. Trying to stay on top. I know that the United Church was working the pressures that are being faced by organizations, including churches, extend their lines of credit, their operations, and borrowing money to be able to loan money to congregations who are in trouble. So everybody is working hard to. This morning I spent the morning trying to write a letter for M&P committees and communities of faith, and now. And I'm sorry that we don't have it's relevant, so we'll start right away information on Monday. But please keep watching the news. Keep watching the site called Every Hour, Canada.ca. But I will echo what Joyce said. We continue to be the economic and to do the work of the church, whether or not our buildings are open or closed. Where the work that we do details are being provided for people. Is essential ways for them to. I thank you for continuing to do that work. And I know that the United Church was working to well in these days enable congregations, and I hope that you find strength in your faith that you can share with your neighbors and those around you. Loan money to congregations who are in trouble. Thanks. So everybody is working hard to support you and encourage you, and I'm sorry that we don't have really right away information, but it seems to be changing every day, if not every hour.
Thanks, Joyce.
But I will echo what Joyce said. We continue to be the church and to do the work of the church, whether or not our buildings are open or closed.
I'm reaching out to you
the work
today
that we
on behalf
do
of the Covenant Commission.
is essential.
I'd like to assure you all that we are here to support communities
I
of
thank
faith
you for continuing to
during
do
this
that work.
unprecedented time.
And
we want to
I
thank
wish
you for your
us
great
all
creativity and flexibility,
well
the ways
in
you
these
are
days
finding
ahead.
to continue
And
your
I hope
worship
that you
and
find
your
strength in
generous
your
sharing
faith
of
that you can
ideas
share
and
with
wisdom with
your
one another
neighbors
that
and those
I've been
around
seeing
you.
on social media.
Thanks.
In this
Back
constantly
to you,
changing
Joyce.
time, we are working to provide you with the most up-to-date information possible. But as Diane said, that is changing so rapidly. But there are a few things that I can highlight for you today.
I would invite Lynn Allen now to share with us.
So the first is that we recognize that anxiety about finances is real for many congregations. And that you are experiencing a temporary microphone is okay and people can hear me okay as a result of the pandemic. So good afternoon, friends. I'm reaching out to you today on behalf of the Covenant when I am wearing Dave Jagger's hat. I'd like to assure you all that we are here at this time want you to remember that many during this unprecedented time have resources that you have been investing. We want to thank you for your great creativity and flexibility, the ways you would have them available to you your worship if you had and your generous sharing of ideas. And I am suggesting that this may be the time when you need those funds. In this constantly changing time, we are working to provide you with the most up-to-date information possible. And so I need to take a moment to discuss what changing so rapidly. But there are a few things that I can highlight for you today that makes the funds restricted. So the first is that we recognize that anxiety about finances is real for many congregations, available to help you meet your ADP you are experiencing a temporary decrease in your income. Now, those are those funds that were often your MANTS funds or maybe from the sale of other property. I will talk more about stewardship when I am wearing Dave Jagger's hat. Your governing body, your council, or your board that needs to make a decision to direct the trustees to withdraw that money from the managing carefully over the years as a guideline, so that you would have them available to you if you had February to know how much that would be. And I am suggesting that this may be the time when you need those funds. And then there is a form that we have available, but some of your funds may be in how much you took from your MANTS funds for those 2 months. And so I need to take a moment to discuss you would email it to me so that we would have a record. The Covenant Commission has passed a motion that makes
but
the
I want to
funds
avoid any
confusion there might be, because
by the
your
regional
community of
council
faith may have
available
two
to help
other
you
types
meet your
of restricted
ADP
funds,
payroll,
and
for
those
March and
cannot be
April.
used for this purpose.
Now, those are those
because of the
funds that were
charity laws
often
set up
your
by Revenue
MANTS
Canada.
funds, or maybe from
So
the
those
sale of
other
other
two
property.
types of restricted funds include,
In order
first
to
of all,
access those
donations
funds that were collected for a
your
specific
governing body, your
purpose.
council, or your
So, for
board
example,
needs
you
to make
had
a decision
campaign to
to
collect money
direct the
for a building
trustees to
fund,
withdraw that
or
money
you
from
have
the
an organ
funds,
maintenance
and
fund,
you would use
and
as a
the donations
guideline
were
your
specifically for that.
ADP
Those
costs
monies
from
are
February
restricted
to
for
know
that
how much
purpose
that would
only,
be.
and you
You
cannot use them
withdraw
for
that
anything
money.
else. And then there is
The
a
second
form that we
example
have
is
available
money that was
you would
restricted
record
by
how
the
much you
giver.
took from your MANTS
So, for
funds
example,
for those
you
2
get
months,
money as a
and then in
bequest
May,
from a will,
you would
and the
email it to
stipulation
me
is that
so
it
that
be
we would
used
have
for
a
Sunday
record of
school
what
or a
had been
particular type
used.
of outreach.
But I want to
Those
avoid any
funds are also
confusion
restricted
there might be,
and
because
cannot be
your
used for
community
any
of
other
faith
purpose.
may have 2
So
other
just to be
types
clear,
of
the restricted
funds
funds
that you
and
can
those
access
cannot be
now
used for
are the
this
ones that were
purpose
restricted by
because of the charity
presbytery
laws set
or
up
by
by
the
Revenue
regional
Canada.
council.
So
And
those
often
other two
those were
types of
ones that
restricted
you could
funds
use the
include,
interest
first
from,
of
but
all,
not the principal,
donations that
without
were collected
discussing
for a
it with the
specific
region.
purpose.
And we're saying now
So,
you
for
can
example,
go ahead
you
and
had a campaign to
access
collect
those
money
monies
for a
for
building
your
fund,
ADP
or
payroll.
you have an organ maintenance fund.
And if you have any
and
questions,
the donations
you are
were
free to email or
specifically
call
for
me.
that.
Those
Now, it
monies
may
are
be that in our
restricted for
market
that
you don't
purpose
want to
only,
cash
and
in
you
those
cannot use them
investments
for
right now,
anything else.
or they are locked in for
The
a certain
second
term.
example is
Or
money
maybe
that
you
was
have the other
restricted
type
by
of
the
funds.
giver, restricted
So,
funds,
for example, you
and you
get
can't
money as a
access
bequest
those.
from a
But you
will,
could go
and
to
the
your bank and
stipulation
ask
is that
them
it be
to
used
give
for
you a
Sunday
line of
school
credit
or a
with
particular
those
type
funds
of
used
outreach.
as collateral.
Those
And
funds are
this week,
also
if you
restricted
watched
and
the
cannot be
webinar
used
for
any other
treasurers,
purpose.
and I encourage
So
you, if you
just to be
didn't
clear,
see it,
the
to
restricted funds
find
that you
it on
can access
United in
now
Learning
are
and
the
watch
ones that were
the
restricted
recorded
by
version of it,
presbytery
or
in
by the
those.
regional
Eric
council.
Matheson
And
has
often those were
said
ones
that
that
he would
you
be
could
willing
use
to
the
sign
interest
on behalf
from,
of
but
the
not the
national
principal,
church
without
as a
discussing it with
guarantor
the region
for any
and we're
lines of
saying
credit.
now you
So
can
if
go
your bank
ahead
is looking for
and
additional
access
security
those monies
on a
for
line of
your
credit,
ADP payroll.
you can contact Eric for that.
And if you have any questions, you are free to email or call me. We also know
Now,
that
it may
the
be that
National
in our
Church is
market
working on
you don't
plans
want
to
to
make
cash
emergency
in
loans
those available to
investments right now,
congregations,
or
and
they
they
are
are
more
locked in for a
information on
certain
that
term.
coming up in
Or maybe
the
you
days
have
and
the
weeks
other
to
type
come.
of funds, restricted funds.
Now, I
And you
mentioned
can't
you would have to
access
have a
those.
meeting of your governing
But you
body,
could
and you
go
may
to
be
your bank
asking
and ask them
how you
to
can
give
do
you a
that.
line of credit
So
with those
right
funds
now you
used
can
as
still hold
collateral.
meetings, but they
And
have to
this
be
week,
done
if you
through
watch the
email,
webinar
or not,
for
sorry, not email,
treasurers,
through,
and I encourage you, if you
Zoom
didn't see
calls,
it,
conference
to
calls,
find it
some
on
way that you could
United
have a
in Learning
discussion.
and watch the
So
recorded version of it. In
if
those,
you have
Eric
a pastoral
Matheson
charge
has
supervisor,
please make sure
said
that
he
they
would
are
be willing to
included in
sign
your
on
governing
behalf of
body
the meetings.
national
And
church
remember that
as a
they are also
guarantor
a trustee
for
and
any
should
lines
be
of credit.
invited
So if
to
your
meetings
bank is
of your
looking for
trustees.
additional security on a line of
Congregational
credit,
meetings can also
you
still
can
happen.
contact Eric for that.
Of course, the issue is, how do you give notice when you aren't meeting for worship?
We also know that
What
the
you
National
need to
Church
do
is
is
working on
announce
plans
it
to
in
make
any
emergency
online
loans
worship you
available
are
to
doing,
congregations,
but
and there'll be
supplement
more
that with
information on that
telephone
coming
calls,
up
emails,
in
and
the
even
days and weeks
Canada
to come.
Post letters to let people know the time
Now, I
and the date
mentioned
of
you
the
would have to
meeting,
have a meeting of
and
your
that it
governing
will be
body, and
held
you may be
either by
asking
Zoom call,
how you can do
Skype,
that.
or conference
So
call.
right now,
The
you can
meeting
still
itself
hold
has to be
meetings,
held
but they
in
have to be
real
done
time so that
through
people have a
email,
chance to
or not,
ask
sorry, not
questions,
email,
to
through
discuss it, and we are
Zoom
open to the
calls,
guidance
conference
of the Holy
calls,
Spirit
some
in
way
making
that
our
you can have a
decisions.
discussion. We ask
So,
that you record in your minutes
if you
how
have
you
a
gave
pastoral
notice.
charge supervisor,
For example,
please make
saying
sure that
notice
they
of
are
this
included
meeting was
in your
given by
governing body
email
meetings,
to all
and
members.
remember
We
that
had
they are also
addresses
a
for
trustee, and
which
should be
represents
invited to
90%
meetings
of your
your
membership.
trustees.
You would also
Congregational
have
meetings
to
can also
indicate
still
or
happen.
decide ahead of time
Of
how you
course,
will
the
handle
issue is,
voting,
how do you give notice
notice when you aren't meeting for worship. What you need to do is announce it in any online worship you are doing. Any questions? But supplement that with telephone calls, emails, and even Canada Post letters to let people know the time and the date of the meeting. And that it will be held either by Zoom call, property
Skype,
insurance,
or conference call.
so we know
The
that if
meeting
you are
itself has to be held
in
in real time
UCC
so that
Hub
people have a
insurance,
chance to ask
they have been
questions,
waiving
to
the
discuss
requirement
it,
to check your
and we are
building
open to the
frequently
guidance of
while
the
it is
Holy
closed.
Spirit in making our decisions.
If you are insured with another
We ask
company,
that you
you need
record
to
in
check
your
with
minutes
them to find
how
out
you
what
gave
their
notice.
requirements are.
For example,
And it may be
saying notice
necessary
of
to
this
have a
meeting was
custodian
given
or
by
a trustee
email
or a
to all
volunteer check the
members we
building
had
on a regular
addresses
basis.
for, which
And if they are
represents
doing so,
90%
we
of your
expect
membership.
that they would do it
You
carefully.
would also have
Perhaps
to
indicate or decide ahead of time
wipe
how you will
down light
handle
fixtures
voting
and door handles
and
that
some
they
of
need
the
to touch
different
as they go about.
technologies
And
like Zoom
also
offer ways
um,
to do that.
you
And
may want
again,
to
any questions, keep
we
a
are
log
happy
of
to
some
help you
sort that
find
it
ways
has been
to
checked.
work with these new technologies.
You might also want to talk to your
the other
insurance
piece I
company
wanted to
about
mention
changing your
was
payments from
property
one
insurance
annual lump sum to a
so
monthly
we know
amount
that if you are
to be able to
insured through
reduce the UCC Hub
your
insurance.
expenses at
They
this
have
time.
been waiving the requirement to check your building frequently while it is closed.
Now, I've mentioned
If
Zoom
you are
several
insured
times.
with another company, there
You
are
need
great
to check with
tutorials
them to find
online,
out what
and
their
I've posted
requirements are.
and it
some
may be
information
necessary to
on,
have a
Zoom
custodian or a
on the
trustee
web
or a
on the
volunteer
Facebook
check the
page,
building on a regular
but you
basis.
can also just Google
And
search
if
Zoom
they are doing so,
tutorials.
we expect that they would
Now,
do
through
it
what is called
carefully,
TechSoup
perhaps
Canada,
there are
wipe
discounts
down
for
light
different
fixtures and door handles
technology
that they need to touch
software, such
as
as
they go about.
Zoom.
And
I'm hearing
also,
mixed reports about
you
how
may want
much you
to
actually save with it,
keep
but it is
a log
something
of
I
some sort
encourage you
that it
to
has been
explore
checked.
when you're looking at getting a Zoom account.
You might also want
Also,
to talk
that you
to
might want
your
to consider
insurance
buying it
company
monthly
about
or
changing your payments
take the
from
year account,
one
depending on
annual
what
lump sum
features you
to a
wish
monthly
to
amount to be able to have
reduce
access to.
your expenses at this time.
If you need to look at purchasing additional computer equipment or
Now, I've mentioned
technology that
Zoom
way,
several
the
times.
technology grants are still
There are
available
great
through General
tutorials
Counsel.
online, and
You can
I've
find
posted
the
some
application
information
forms
on the
Zoom
website
on
and
the
you
Facebook
can,
page,
but
fill
you
those
can
out
also
and
just
send them
Google
in as
search
well.
Zoom tutorials. Now, through what is
If you
called
have other
TechSoup
questions
Canada,
about
there
how
are
to
carry on
discounts
doing the
for
work
different
of your ministry
technology
as a congregation,
software, such
please
as
don't hesitate
Zoom,
to
I'm
let me
hearing
know.
mixed reports
And
about
again,
how much
we
you
will work it
actually
out
save
together
with it
in this
but it is something
strange
I
new
encourage
time.
you to explore when you're looking
So
at getting
now
a Zoom
I
account.
would like to
Also,
that you might want to consider
address
buying it
the
monthly or
information that
take the year
David
account
has
depending on what
passed on to
features
me.
you wish to.
Uh,
David Jagger is
have
our
access to.
stewardship officer and is well known, I think, to most of
If you
us
need to
as
look at
someone who
purchasing
is
additional computer
always there to
equipment
speak
or
about ways that
technology
we
that
can
way,
do
the
stewardship
technology grants
and
are still
give people
available through General
opportunities to
Counsel.
support
You can find the
church and the work
application
that we do
forms
together
on the website,
and
so
you
as we
can
find ourselves unable to
fill those
gather
out
in
and send them
person,
in as well. It presents a struggle as to how we
if you
continue to
have
make
other
our
questions
offerings
about how to
and
carry
we are
on
looking
doing
for
the
new
work
ways
of your
to
ministry as a
worship
congregation,
and how do we include
please don't
offering in
hesitate
that,
to let me
because
know.
we can't just pass
And
the collection
again,
plate
we will
through the screen.
we will work it out together in this
So it's important for
strange new time.
congregations as they are getting innovative with so many
now
other parts
I
of
would
ministry
like to
also find ways to let people
address
know that there are
the information
alternative
that
ways to keep
David
David
has
has
passed
passed on to me. David
So we
Jagger
also
is
have to keep
our
in mind that
stewardship
some of our
officer
members
and
are facing
is well
really
known, I think, to most
difficult
of us
financial hardships
as someone
themselves
who
due
is
to layoffs
always
and
there to
sickness
speak
and caring
about
for
ways
family
that
members.
we can do
And our
stewardship
first
and
priority is
give
the
people
pastoral care
opportunities
and
to
maintaining
support
those relationships within our
the
community
church
of
and the
faith.
work that we
But
do
that
together.
shouldn't stop us from inviting people
So as
to
we
at
find
least be
ourselves
aware
unable
of
to
the new
gather
ways of
in
giving.
person, and we may find that
It
there are people
presents a
who are
struggle
able
as
to
to
step
how
up
we
and
continue to
offer
make
more
our offerings,
because
and we
they
are
feel
looking for
called
new
to be able to
ways
help.
to worship.
And
We
how
also
do we
remember
include
that
offering
all
in
people
that?
and all
Because
gifts
we can't just pass
are
the collection
um,
plate through the
worth
screen.
being recognized and thanked.
So it's important for congregations as they are getting innovative
practices
with so
that
many
David
other parts of
encourages are
ministry
to inspire,
to also
to
find
invite,
ways to
and
let
to
people
thank
know that there
people for
are
their gifts.
alternative ways to
So
keep
keep
giving
telling
to
the
their
inspiring
congregation.
stories of how your congregation is doing
So we
ministry
also
and
have to
making a
keep in mind
difference
that some of
in
our
people's
members
lives in
are
this troubling
facing really
time.
difficult
Keep
financial
inviting
hardships
them to be
themselves due to
generous
layoffs
because
and
that
sickness
is
and
an
caring for
antidote to
family
fear.
members. And our
It
first
gives us
priority
something
is the
tangible we
pastoral
can do
care
to make a
and
difference.
maintaining
It's
those
a spiritual
relationships within our
practice.
community of faith.
But
And
that
invite
shouldn't
people to
stop us
share
from inviting
as
people
part of the
to at least be
community that they
aware of the
belong
new
to.
ways of giving.
And we may find that there are
So
people who
I
are
would
able
invite
to
you
step
to
up
follow
and
those good
offer more.
practices
I know David
because
also mentioned in the
they feel
webinar
called
last
to be
night
able to
that
help.
it's important to perhaps
We
keep
also
pastoral
remember that
care
all
and
people and all gifts are
invitation for giving separate.
worth
So
being
if you are giving
recognized
having a
and
pastoral
thanked.
care call,
So
focus on the pastoral
the
care.
practices that David
But it might be
encourages are to
also
inspire,
possible
to
to have
invite, and to
a letter
thank
that goes out to
people
your
for their gifts.
congregation that
So keep
explains the
telling the
alternative
inspiring
ways
stories
of
of
how
giving.
your congregation
So
is
some of these
doing
ways are
ministry and making a difference in
good
people's
old-fashioned
lives in this
post-dated
troubling
checks.
time. You can have
Keep
people
inviting them
fill
to
them out,
be
put them in an envelope,
generous because that
seal
is
the
an
envelope
antidote
with
to
a wet
fear.
sponge rather than by
It
licking
gives
it,
us something
and then
tangible
mail
we
them to
can
the
do to
church
make a
office.
difference.
Or
It's a
if the
spiritual
office
practice.
is not available for mail
And
to be
invite
picked
people
up,
to share
then maybe drop
as
them
part
off
of the community
through a
that they
designated
belong
door
to.
slot, or have a member of the
So
congregation who
I would
like
invite
your
you
treasurer
to
has
follow
them
those
mailed to
good
their home
practices
for this
I
period
know
of
David
time.
also mentioned in the webinar last night
You might
that it's
also even be
important to
able to talk
perhaps
to your
keep
bank
pastoral
about being
care
able to make
and
deposits electronically by taking
invitation
images
for
of the
giving
checks.
separate.
So talk to
So
your
if you
banks
are
about
giving
that. Having a pastoral care call,
PAR
focus
is
on the
still
pastoral
a
care.
excellent way for
But it might be
congregations to
also possible to
encourage
have
people to
a
give.
letter that goes
You
out to your
can, if you're already a
congregation
PAR
that
member, you
explains
can
the
change the
alternative
amount of your
ways of
giving.
giving by
So
contacting
some
the
of these
PAR
ways are
office. If you wish to
good
become
old-fashioned
a member
post-dated
of
checks.
the
You can
PAR
have people
process,
fill them out,
then
put
you
them in an
can
envelope,
get the
seal the
information
envelope
from
with a
online
wet
and complete
sponge,
it rather than by
print it
licking
off,
it, and then
you are
mail them to
asked
the
to
church
mail
office,
it
or if the
an
office
address
is
that
not
has been made
available for mail to be
and
picked
I'm
up,
sure we will get
then
that
maybe
in the
drop them
chat.
off
It's
to
to
a
Rose
designated door
Camborn
slot and
or
her
have
home address
a
so
member of
that
the
she is
congregation who
accepting
become like
these
your treasurer
in
has
order
them
to
mailed to
process
their
it.
home
You
for
do
this
not
period of
want to
time.
put your PAR
You might also even be
application
able to talk
through
to your bank
email,
about being
because
able to
that
make
is not
deposits
considered to be a
electronically
secure
by
way to
taking
share
images of
that
the checks. So
information,
talk
which
to your
includes
banks about
banking
that.
information. So please, if you are
PAR
joining
is
PAR for the
still
first
a
time,
excellent way for
send it
congregations to
by
encourage people
mail
to give.
to the address
You
that we
can,
will
if you're
provide.
already a PAR member,
You can
members
change
of
the
your
amount of your
congregation,
giving
if you can reach
by
out and help
contacting the PAR
provide
office
others with
if you
support
wish to
in how to
become
do
a member
this,
of
that would also
the
be an
PAR
excellent way
process,
to
then
make
you
it
can
easier for
get
them.
the
You've
information
also
from online
probably
and
heard a
complete
lot
it,
recently
print it
about
off,
Canada Helps,
and you are asked
Canada
to mail
Helps
it
is an
to
opportunity for
an
people
address
to
that has
give
been made
online.
available.
Now,
And
Canada
I'm
Helps
sure
is
we
a
will get
charity
that
itself,
in the chat.
and
It's
its
to Rose
mission
Camborn
is to help
and
other
her
charities
home address
so
that she
collect
is
donations.
accepting these
So
in order
you
to
are
process
already
it.
registered
You do
with
not
Canada
want to
Helps.
put your
You can
PAR
go to their website and you
application
will find
through
a
email,
basic
because that
profile
is not
account which
considered
lists
to be
your
a
church.
secure way to share that
If
information, which
people
includes
want to,
banking
they could give
information.
to your church
So
right now
please,
through
if you
Canada
are
Helps.
joining PAR for the first
Well,
time,
Canada Helps issues
send it
the
by
tax receipt, so you
mail
don't need
to
to do
the
that.
address that we will provide.
And they will mail you the
Members
check.
of your congregation, if you could
But
reach
if
out
you'd like
and
to,
help
you
provide
can
others with
update
support
your
in
account
how to do this,
that would
full
also be
fundraising
an excellent
account,
way to
there's no cost
make
to
it
do
easier
that.
for them.
You'll be able to
You've
add
also probably heard a lot
personalized
recently
details to
about
your
Canada
account
Helps.
profile for people
Canada
to see.
Helps is
You'll
an
be able to
opportunity
put
for people
donation
to give
buttons
online.
on your web page.
Now, Canada Helps is a
And
charity itself,
then the
and its
mission
cost
is
for
to help
getting
other
the
charities
donation from Canada
collect
Helps
donations.
changes from 4%
So you are already
to
registered
3.5%.
with Canada Helps. You can go to their website and you will find that a basic profile account which lists your church. The cost that the credit card companies charge. If people want and I think most of us would agree, we'd be happier to get $96 Canada Helps issues the tax receipt. Nothing at all. You don't need to do that. Donation of if it's a donation of $100. They will mail you the check. But if you also you can transfer the donations electronically to if you have signed up for the fundraising account. There's no cost to do that. Wait for a check to come. You'll be able to add personalized details to your account that profile is information that you can share with. You'll be able to put donation buttons in a letter web page. On your Facebook page, then anywhere you can think cost to pass that information for getting along. And it also makes it visible Canada to Helps the general public in the community around you to 3.5%. Who may be looking for a way to donate. People seem to be shocked by that. Are a conversation that many churches are having right now as well. That the credit card companies charge. A conversation that and I think most of us would agree we'd be happier to get that are willing $96 and 50 cents a way to do this, even if you require nothing at all out of a donation. Dave recommends that you will need to make some decisions about this. They also will using the transfer email address rather than someone's personal email if you have signed up for the full fundraising account. Transfer email can be forwarded to the treasurer for the deposit and to the envelope steward. So that is information that you can share with all your donors. That way you still have two people in a letter or to provide on your Facebook page to anywhere you can assets of pass that information along and those involved. And it also makes it visible to the general public and the community around you who may be looking for a way to donate. Whoever will receive that transfer for deposit will also have to have a link to the congregation's bank account. E-transfers are a conversation that many churches are having right now as well. It seems to be a conversation that first has to start with your bank, that we are providing today that are willing to again, David wants you to know that you are not to do this, even if you require two signatures, and that he is Dave recommends that you will need to make some decisions about this. The information that has been first provided, of all, using the office email address rather than someone's personal email address. On the two webinars that were done this week, transfer email can be forwarded to the treasurer for the deposit. I recommend that you and to the envelope steward for recording the gift. Watch for those the receipt later. For updates, and that way you still have two people involved him to provide the best practices to safeguard the assets of the church. I believe and now those involved. I will turn this over to Cheryl Ann. You will also need to have whoever will receive that transfer for deposit will also have to have a link to the congregation's bank account to be able to complete that.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by echoing what my colleagues have said, that all of you are doing an amazing job. To our ministry personnel and our congregational leaders, the innovation and the imagination you have shown to be able to continue to gather for worship and to express care for one another is truly inspiring. And so thank you. Thank you for being such dedicated leaders. This has been an enormous challenge, and it's changed for us moment by moment. It has involved paying attention to multiple sources of information, and it has also involved learning many new technologies, both individually and to facilitate those with whom we're gathering. That is exhausting. So my one caution to everyone right now is it would seem that we are in a very small window where we might just sit in our new normal, by echoing what my colleagues where we might just rest, that all catch our breath, are doing an amazing job. And I am encouraging you to our ministry personnel and our congregational leaders. It is not unreasonable. The innovation and the imagination you have shown to be able to continue to gather for worship and to express care for one another is truly inspiring. And so thank you. Death within your community. Thank you for being such dedicated leaders. With providing child This has been an enormous challenge, and it's changed for us moment by moment. And possibly it has involved paying attention to multiple sources of information, and it has also involved learning many new technologies. Make sure, both individually that you're and to facilitate those with whom we're gathering, to tackle what lies ahead. That is exhausting. I also want to my one caution to everyone right now to separate. It would seem that we are in a very small window where we might from just anticipated normal anxieties, where we might just rest. There is and significant anticipatory anxiety, and I am encouraging you to do that. Everybody it is not unreasonable a critical shortfall of tougher days lie ahead. That's not an unrealistic all of you may be dealing with, but actually we don't know for sure that that's what's going to happen. We already have some very early anecdotal evidence providing child to say that some people have stepped up their giving and possibly because they want their church to be sustained through this time. And other evidence of a congregation who suddenly received a $75 per month donation through Canada Helps from a community member who wished to remain anonymous, but who's not a member of that community of faith. I also want to encourage you only values what they bring to separate to the larger context. Current problems we likely will anticipated a financial crunch. But we don't necessarily have it yet. Anticipatory anxiety so let's in the church keep right in perspective. Everybody the worries we have and deal with the ones that are critical shortfall of funds. Planning for any eventuality is intended to ease anxiety, not but actually we don't know for sure that that's what's going to happen. We already have some very early anecdotal we have many congregations to say that some people have stepped up their giving charges because they want their church to be sustained through this time. Show that they have other evidence of a congregation who suddenly received a $75 per month donation through Canada Helps from a community member who wished to remain anonymous. If we don't have money for now, then why do we have it? Community of faith. What are we saving it for? Only values what they bring important to the larger context to be available to people right now. We likely will have a financial crunch. In terms of what but we is don't available from necessarily have it there yet. Will be more updates so let's after the General Council meets this weekend. The worries the we General have Council and deal with the ones starting that are present tomorrow. Realities. And they're going to look at a variety of emergency is intended to ease anxiety. One of those options, and I think our concern is maybe a congregational loan program. As Lynn said, I'm going to echo. It is reasonable to assume we have many congregations that have savings. To any congregational majority of the pastoral charges in Antler River Watershed Regional Council to ensure that show that they have communities of faith draw on their own savings. Now is the time for our savings. And secondly, that they access whatever government benefits are available. Our ministries is we hardly know if we don't have money for now, then why do we have it? What are we saving for the way she's managing highly complex employment issues that are changing to be available to people right so we're doing our best to keep you informed, but we actually don't yet in terms of what is available from the denomination. There will be definitely though these two initial sources the General Council meets this weekend. Congregational savings, the General Council is government starting tomorrow will be the first and they're going to look at a variety of a denominational measure program if it's created. One of those options may be a congregational loan program. I want to remind you that it is reasonable to assume because we were committed to move to a balanced access budget. To any congregational loan for program many of the past years, we have met our to ensure that first, by spending down our communities of faith draw our on their own now savings. Sit at what is the recommended minimum threshold that they access for an organization of our government size benefits are available. And the truth is there we hardly know what they are yet. As Diane shared, I at the denomination have such respect for the way she's managing any highly complex employment issues that are changing moment by moment. Will be made so we're doing our best to keep you informed, but we actually don't yet have access every line of credit to fund that definitely program. Though these two so initial sources of funds, congregational savings will be called upon and first. Government benefits will be the first. I'd also ask you and a denominational to bear in mind that the General Council Executive was scheduled to meet this weekend for an in-person gathering, which is very rare. I want to remind you that we restructured and because we were committed to move to a balanced budget. Do strategic planning. Particularly around the past 2021, we have met our expenses. We have some harsh financial realities before us for our savings now that we will experience what is the recommended minimum threshold for an organization of our size trickle down since they provide there is no extra pot of money please
sitting at the
hold the General Council Executive in prayer.
Any loan
they're going to be
program
working
that
with
the
trying to be
denomination makes
compassionate
available
now
will be made available
for the
through
future.
borrowed funds.
At the very same
the denomination
time,
will access a
and
line
they will
of
need
credit
to set the
to
principles
fund that program,
on which the 2021
so that's
budget
why
will be built.
congregational
This
savings
as
will
well.
be called upon first.
Lastly,
I'd also ask you,
in terms of the General
to
Council,
bear in mind that the General Council
communities
Executive
of
was
faith scheduled to meet
are
this
encouraged
weekend
to feel
for an
free to
in-person gathering,
delay
which is
the
very rare
submission
for
of
it
your
in its new
assessments.
model. And the goal of
Assessments
that
haven't been
gathering
canceled,
was to do strategic
but
planning,
they do not
particularly
need to be
around
paid
2021.
right now.
We
For
have
now,
some
you can
harsh
suspend
financial
that payment
realities
if you're on a
before
regular
us for
monthly
2021
remittance
that we will
do not feel you
experience
need
at
to
the
send in
General
your
Council
check
level
if
and the
that's how
regional
you're
council
covering
level.
it as
You
a
can wait
trickle
to
down
do that
since
till
they
cash flow
provide the
problems are
grants
better
fees.
resolved. So
Please,
while
hold
not canceled,
the General
you
Council
have immediate
Executive in
relief
prayer,
from
because
payment.
they're going
of
to be
it.
working with trying to be compassionate
Now, many
now
people have raised
and
questions
concerned
today
for
in the
future
chat, and much
at
of our
the very
correspondence
same
has been
time.
about the changing perspective
And they will
on
need to
access
set
to
the
Ontario buildings.
principles
So
on which
let
the
me provide
2021 budget will be
clarification
built
as we have it
this
now.
coming weekend as well.
Churches were not deemed
Lastly,
essential in terms of the General
businesses
Council by the province of Ontario,
communities
with
of
the
faith
exception
are
of the
encouraged to
provisions they
feel
offered
free
for
to
the most
delay
vulnerable
the
among us.
submission of your
So
assessments.
in that context,
Assessments
churches
haven't
who
been
ran
canceled,
an outreach
but
ministry,
they
such as
do
a
not
weekly
need to be
meal
paid right
or
now.
something of that nature.
For now, you can
We're
suspend
able
that
to
payment
continue
if you're on a
that
regular monthly
specific
remittance.
program,
Do
provided
not
they
feel
were
you need to send in your
administering it
check if
according
that's how you're
to the
covering it.
strictest public
You
health
can wait to
guidelines
do
that have been
that
offered for
till
those,
cash flow problems are
such
better
as
resolved.
providing a takeout
So,
meal instead.
while not
Many
canceled,
you
different
have
details.
immediate relief from payment of it.
We sought an outside legal
Now,
opinion
many people have
that
raised
said we
questions
shouldn't be
today in
the
the
church for
chat, and
anything
much of our
else.
correspondence has been about
The
the General
changing
Council then
perspective
also
on
approached the
access to
Solicitor
Ontario
General buildings,
who said,
so let me provide
well, we do
clarification
recognize
as
people
we
need
have it
spiritual
now.
leadership.
Consequently, churches
Small
were
group
not
of people
deemed may enter the
essential
sanctuary
businesses
to be able to
by
provide
the
worship.
province of Ontario, with
So
the
the custodian
exception
cannot be
of the
working in the
provisions
building
they
all the time,
offered for the most
although they
vulnerable
might be the
among us.
person designated to do
So in that
a check on the building
context,
every few
churches
days.
who ran
The office
an
administrator
outreach
cannot be working in the
ministry, such as a
building all the
weekly
time.
meal
The things that regularly happen
something
in the
of
building
that
must
nature
not be happening.
were able to
But
continue
permission
that
has been granted
specific
for worship.
program,
So
provided they were
contrary to the
administering it
advice that I gave some
according
people earlier
to the
this week when I said,
strictest
no,
public
that's
health
not
guidelines that have
possible,
been offered for
and you
those,
risk fines,
such as
it is now possible.
providing a takeout
Now the
meal
challenge I'm
instead,
going to give you
many
is
different
it
details.
advisable? Just because you can do
We
it,
sought an
should you
outside
be doing
legal
it?
opinion that said we
I
shouldn't
raised
be
that
in the
on
church
two
for
counts.
anything else. The first The
message is
General
if you
Council
lead
then
worship
also
from your
approached the
sanctuary,
Solicitor
you
General,
in effect
who
say,
said there are other
well,
safe
we do
places than
recognize
your
people
home
need
and you
spiritual leadership.
undercut public health message.
Consequently, a small group of people
So decide how
may
badly
enter
you
the
need to be in the
sanctuary
space
to be able to provide
versus
worship.
how much you want to
So the
communicate. We
custodian
all need to
cannot be
be in our
working in the
homes
building all the
except
time,
for
although they
absolutely
might be the person
essential
designated
external
to do
errands.
a check on the building every few
And
days.
the other reason I
The office
raise it
administrator cannot be
is
working in the
because it
building
is
all the
way
time.
more
The things that
important to your
regularly
community of
happen
faith
in the
to have
building
you
must
healthy
not be happening.
but
Then it
permission
is for
has
them
been
to have you
granted for
lead worship
worship.
from the sanctuary. So contrary to the advice that
So
I gave
do
some people
not
earlier
forget
this week when
that
I said,
every
no, that's
time
not
you leave your
possible,
home, you
and
take
you risk
a risk.
fines, it is now possible.
And we are
Now the
trying to
challenge
protect
I'm going
you
to
as
give you
well. Is it advisable?
and that's the reason the advice
Just
came
because
out
you
that I
can
did
do
to
it,
everyone
should you be doing it?
from the moderator
I
who's
raised that
saying
on
to
two
delay
counts.
funerals. The first
This
message
too
is
is a
if you
concern.
lead worship
The
from your
natural
sanctuary,
inclination
you in effect
is that
say
we want to be
there are
present for
other
people
safe
in this
places
moment.
than your home, and you undercut public
I
health
have
message.
been awestruck by the
So
creativity
decide how
people have
badly you
shown.
need
So
to
I
be
believe
in
there are creative
space
ways
to gather
versus how
the
much you want
family
to
circle
communicate.
together
We all
for
need
some
to
sort
be
of
in our homes
memorial in the
except
moment.
for absolutely
But
essential
as you
external
know,
errands.
I'm a country girl. I live in a small town.
And the other
Nobody
reason I
gets
raise
buried
it
where I live
is because it is
from
way
December
more
1st
important to your
April
community of
30th.
faith to have you
And this year, of
healthy
course, it may be longer than
We
it is
can
for them to have
delay
you
many
lead
of
worship
these
from the
things.
sanctuary.
So please,
So
for your
do not
own
forget
personal
that every
protection,
time you leave your home, you
your communities need the leadership
and
that
we
our
are trying to
ministers and
protect you as
dedicated
well.
lay leaders are giving
And that's
right
the
now.
reason the advice
We're
came out that it
invested in
did to
encouraging
everyone
you
to
from
take
the
guidelines
moderator who's
seriously
saying to delay
maintain your own
funerals.
personal well-being.
This too is a concern.
The natural inclination
Is
that
lastly,
we want to be
update
present
you
for people in
around
this
our
meeting.
May meeting. I have been
We have heard
awestruck
from you
by the
before
creativity people
that out
have
of
shown.
their
So I believe
commitment
there are
to the
creative
safety
ways
of their
to gather
employees,
they
the
are not going to
family circle
reopen their
together
site until at
for
least
some sort of
September.
memorial in the
So
moment.
that means that our May
But
event
as you
together is
know,
canceled.
I'm a country girl. I
Each
live
of
in
the
a
regional
small
council
town.
executives
Nobody
will
gets
look at
buried
what
where
that
I
means for
live
them
from December 1st
They are
till
all
April
mindful.
30th.
And
That
this
there
year,
are
of
folks
course, it
on
may
the
be
threshold
longer.
of change.
We can
People who are being
delay
commissioned,
many of
ordained,
these things.
admitted, and
So
they're staying
please,
in
for
touch with
your
them through
own
OV
personal
Minister Tanya
protection,
Cameron.
your
And
communities
also
need
thinking
the
about what are the
leadership
best options to
that
preserve
our
everyone's
ministers
health
and
so that it can
dedicated
be
lay
as
leaders are
celebratory a
giving
moment
right
as
now.
possible. We're invested in encouraging you
October
to take
3rd,
guidelines
Saturday,
seriously
October
to
3rd,
maintain
had
your own
already been
personal
designated
well-being
as a fall meeting date for Antler River Watershed Regional Council.
Lastly,
So please
to
preserve that
update you
date
around our
and
May
hold
meeting.
on to it, and we will give you
We
more
have heard
details
from you
before the end
before
of April once the
that out
executive
of their
meets and makes
commitment
some
to
further
the safety
decisions.
of their employees,
Most of
they
our
are not going to
details
reopen their site
that we're
until at
trying to
least
get to as
September.
quickly as possible.
So that
We're
means that
sending
our
out to you
May
to our
event
Facebook
together
group.
is canceled. If you haven't
Each of
joined
the regional
yet,
council
please
executives
do.
will look at what
We
that
can
means for
get
them.
information to you in the Facebook group
They are
from
all
multiple
mindful
sources that there are folks on the threshold
immediately.
of change, people who
The
are being
minute we want
commissioned,
to use
ordained,
any
admitted,
other platform,
and they're staying in
including
touch
what we
with
call
them
our
through OV
MailChimp that
Minister
sends
Tanya
out our
Cameron,
newsletters, we have a
and
delay
also
and
thinking about what are
capacity
the
issues.
best options to preserve
Whatever we
everyone's
put in the
health so that it
Facebook
can be as
group,
celebratory
we'll
a
be sure
moment
to
as possible.
follow up in other contexts. October
But
3rd,
the quickest way to
Saturday,
get it is
October
to join the
3rd, had
Facebook group
already
for
been
now. That's partly
designated
why
as
we
a
created
fall
it.
meeting date
For Antler
we
River
can get
Watershed
information
Regional
to you
Council.
quickly.
So
Even
please
more
preserve
importantly,
that date
you can get
and
information to
hold
each other.
on to it.
The
And we will give you
engagement of
more
Facebook
details
groups
before
across
the
the
end of
region has
April
varied,
once the
but
executive
some
meets
of
and
them
makes
have
some
become
further
really lively
decisions.
discussion places with
Most
helpful
of our
information
details
so
that
please
we're trying
consider
to get to you
joining
as
the
quickly as
Facebook group.
possible.
We're sending out to you through our
Lastly, as your
Facebook
regional
group.
council staff, we
If you haven't
remain
joined
available
yet,
to you.
please do.
We continue to be
We
available
can
to
get
you
information to you in the
by
Facebook
email
group from
and by
multiple
telephone.
sources
We will continue with our
immediately.
newsletters. We are working hard not to
The minute
duplicate
we want to
information.
use
If
any
the
other
general counsel's the
platform,
source on
including
it,
what we call our
then
MailChimp
we'll link
that
to
sends
their
out our
website.
newsletters,
What we are
we
trying
have
to give
a
you is the
delay
information we
and
have. That's
capacity
from
issues.
us. Whatever we put in the Facebook
we are holding you in
group,
prayer,
we'll be sure to
and I
follow up
cannot
in
say
other
often
contexts.
enough that we are
But the
inspired
quickest way to get it
by
is to
how
join the
you're
Facebook
leading
group
us
for now.
through
That's
this time,
partly why we created it.
and we are encouraging
We can
you
get information to you quickly,
to make
even
sure you're
more
taking care of
importantly,
you
you can get
and avoiding
information to
any
each other.
unnecessary risk.
The
Thanks,
engagement
President
of
Joyce.
Facebook groups across the region has varied, but some of
Thank you,
them have become
Cheryl-Ann, for
really
all of
lively
that.
discussion places with helpful
We had
information.
offered
So
two
please consider
questions
joining
for
the
folks
Facebook
to
group.
consider.
Lastly, as your
And I
regional
think John's
council
going to put
staff,
up the
we
first
remain
one, and that is,
available to
how
you.
is your
We
community of
continue
faith
to be
staying
available to you
connected
by
as a
email
worshiping
and by
community,
telephone.
as a
We will
caring
continue with our
community
newsletters. We are working
during
hard
this
not to
time?
duplicate information.
I
If
would
the
offer
general
you a
counsel's
few
the
minutes
source on
to
it,
share
then
some of
we'll
your
link to
feedback.
their
We have
website.
received some of it.
What we are trying to give you is the
If any
information
folks
we
have
have that's
ways
from
that they
us.
want to share in the chat box
We
today,
are holding you
feel
in prayer,
free to put some
and I
of
cannot
those
say often
comments in
enough
there, and feel free
that
to
we are
use the Facebook to
inspired
share these as
by how
well.
you're leading
The
us
more
through
that we
this
can
time,
connect with each other and
and
share our
we are
ideas and share our
encouraging you
resources, the better we'll be
to make sure you're
as a
taking care of
community. So I'll give
you
you a few
and
minutes
avoiding
there
any
to consider
unnecessary
that
risk.
question and
Thanks,
enter
President
anything
Joyce.
into the chat box that you're finding might be helpful. Thank you,
Or
Cheryl
ask
Ann, for all of
questions
that.
of others.
We had offered two questions for folks to consider. And I think John's going to put up the first one, and that is, how is your community of faith staying connected as a worshiping community, as a caring community during this time? I would offer you a few minutes to share some of your feedback. We have received some of it. If any folks have ways that they want to share share in the chat box today. Feel free to put some of those comments in there, and feel free to use the Facebook to share these as well. As the more that we those comments, I would invite folks as well to consider the second question as a community. So I'll give you a few minutes there to consider that question and enter anything into the chat box that you're finding might be helpful, or ask very important to us that you are doing self-care. So what are you finding helpful for your personal well-being during this time of many demands? Wow, there's lots of stuff happening. As we receive those comments, I would invite folks even the making of consider the second question. Matthew Penny, thank you for that. Offered to you. It's very important to us. We are creative. We can tell. Look at all of these ideas. It's very important to us that you are doing self-care. So what are you finding helpful for your personal well-being during this time of many demands? Thanks, folks, for sharing those ideas, and please continue to share through the Facebook, through email, so that we can do as much connection as we can in a new and different way. I am a pew sitter. I'm a layperson. I'm not responsible for planning weekly worship. Wow, we're managing the million details of a congregation's life. Awesome to see, even the making of masks. I am, however, the partner of a paid accountable minister. And I am personally aware of the incredible emotional, we are creative pressure. We can tell. Look at all of these ideas. All of our clergy are facing during these crazy times, and the many extended hours they are committing to the life and work of our churches. Thanks, folks, for sharing. Please know those ideas, and please continue to share through the Facebook and in email as you navigate the world, so that we can do and your congregation as much connection as we can in a new and different way in these days. On a personal note, I am a pew sitter, and on behalf of the region, I'm a layperson. Also, I'm not responsible for our regional staff planning weekly worship job they are doing. We're managing the million details of a congregation's life. We have a number of people helping us with a paid accountable minister. And I am personally aware of the incredible emotional and additional pressure and Kathy and all of our clergy are facing during these crazy times. Thank you. And the many extended hours they are committing making us live to the life and work of our churches and helping us reach so many people at one time. We hold you with from managing the minute-to-minute information updates you navigate hundreds of questions and your congregations about how we do what we do, church, if we do or when we do these days, or why we do. We give thanks for Diane and Lynn on a personal note, and Cheryl Ann and Kevin on behalf of the region. Thank you for your commitment. We need also to acknowledge our regional staff and the incredible job they are doing on our behalf to help us work in the best possible way. We have a number of people helping us with each and every day. Our staff is working above and beyond these days. Pratima and John and Sue and Kathy go round and round, and Tanya Cameron. And on behalf of the Antler River Watershed Region, thank you for making us live. Our deepest thanks and helping us our support reach so many people at one time. From managing the minute-to-minute information updates to fielding hundreds of questions. Bring up Kevin's audio and about how we do what we do. If we do or when we do, our pastor why we do to lead us in prayer. We give thanks for Diane and Lynn and Cheryl Ann and Kevin. Thank you for your commitment and your
Good afternoon. Let us come together now in a spirit of prayer.
to help us
Let us
work
pray.
in the best possible way.
Gracious God, our ever-present
Each and
help
every day,
in time of trouble,
our staff is working above and
we give you
beyond
thanks and
to ensure
praise
the
for
wheels
your
on our
continued
bus
presence and guidance
go
in these
round and
extraordinary
round.
moments.
And on
And
behalf
so
of the
we
ARWRC
offer
River
to you this
Watershed
day, O
Region,
Lord, our
we offer
confusion,
you our deepest thanks,
our
our
anxiety,
support,
our
and our
boredom,
prayers.
and our fear.
I would like to
Yet we
ask
offer
Kevin
as well
Steeper if
our
we
hope.
could bring up Kevin's audio and
In these times of
sound,
weakness,
please.
may we
I would
know
like
your
to ask
strength,
Kevin, our pastoral support
Aggie.
minister,
In these
to
times
lead
of
us in prayer.
anxiety, may we know your comfort. In these times of fear, may we know the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ. Good afternoon. We pray this day, O Lord, let us come together now in a spirit of prayer. Of leadership. Let us pray. At the General Council, gracious God, Council, our ever-present help faith in time of trouble. In municipal, provincial, we give you thanks and praise for your continued presence and your wisdom and love in these extraordinary moments concrete in your world. And so we offer to you this day, O Lord, our confusion, our anxiety. We also ask that our communities of faith may know your presence and your resilient spirit as they continue to minister and reach out to the least of our brothers and sisters. In these times of weakness, pray all these things may we know your crucified and risen one. In these times of anxiety, may we know your comfort. Thank you, Joyce. In these times of fear,
Thank you, Kevin.
may we know the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Folks, we've given you what we know. As
we pray this day, O Lord,
moment,
for all those holding offices of leadership. We will
continue to keep you updated
at the General Council,
as
the
soon
Regional
as information
Council,
comes to us.
in communities of faith.
Please know we hold you in prayer.
In municipal, provincial, and federal government.
Support you.
That your wisdom and love may be made concrete in your world
the work
through
we
their
do
decisions and actions.
Is essential. It is important.
We also ask that our communities of faith may know your presence and your resilient
to continue
spirit
as best we can
as they continue to minister and reach
to
out to the least of our brothers and sisters.
Take care and stay well. Our chat box will be open for a minute or two for you to put any other questions you might have
Jesus the Christ.
in the box.
Amen. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you, Kevin.
Amen.
That was an emergency alert that just came on my phone. Giving you what we know as of this moment. Take good care, my friends. Continue to keep you updated as soon as information comes to us. Please know we hold you in prayer.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Joyce. And I think we will all attend to our emergency alert that everyone has received on their cell phones.
Is essential.
Let's get back to
taking
care of the world around us.
And we will retain our resolve to continue as best we can during these times. My blessings to you, my friends. Take care and stay well. Our chat box will be open for a minute or two for you to put any other questions you might have in the box. That was an emergency alert that just came on my phone. Take good care, my friends. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Joyce. And I think we will all attend to our emergency alert that everyone has received on their cell phones. And let's get back to taking care of the world around us.
Emergency alert, alert urgence. Travelers returning to Ontario, you
Pratima, I think Joyce's video is still spotlighted.
I think her video is off.
Everyone should stay home to stop the spread. Learn more at this website, www.ontario.ca/page/2019-novel-coronavirus.
I'm actually glad to hear that message going out.
Travelers returning to Ontario.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too. It's my husband's company that he works for that puts that out. And they all have to work from home so that nobody from the emergency
Learn more at this website,
stuff will get sick, because the last thing you need is for
emergency alert urgence. Travelers returning to Ontario. You are at high risk of
Pratima, I think Joyce's video is still spotlighted.
by law to self-isolate for 14 days. Do not visit
I
stores.
think her video is off.
Everyone should stay home to stop the spread. Learn more at this website, www.ontario.ca/page/2019-novel-coronavirus.
I'm actually glad to hear that message going out.
Travelers returning to Ontario.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too. It's my husband's company that he works for that puts that out. And they all have to work from home so that nobody from the emergency
Learn more at this website,
stuff will get sick, because the last thing you need is for